This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CPTnews.com.
Research shows that car buyers who complete more than half of the purchase process online are the most satisfied with their experience. Yet, there are few dealerships who are equipped to sell mostly online. How can dealerships close this gap? For most dealerships, it won't happen all at once. And while no one in the industry is suggesting that everyone go 100% online overnight, we're seeing many dealerships find success by incorporating elements of the digital retailing experiences shoppers get from other retailers in the car buying process. Here with me today is Greta Crowley, who's the Vice President of Retail Marketing at Cox Automotive, to speak further on what dealers are doing and not doing on the digital retailing front. So Greta, thank you so much for joining us on today's show.
Thank you for having me, Jim. I'm excited to be here.
As dealers approach the end of 2023, what are they saying is their primary end of year focus?
Yeah, well, no surprise here is that what we're hearing from dealerships is that consumer experience is key, and they're constantly looking for ways to improve both the shopping and buying experience in their dealerships, right? Because obviously from a consumer perspective, that's what consumers want, to make it easy and seamless for them. Our annual Cox Automotive Car Buyer Journey Study addresses this dealer concern. And like you said at the top, right? I mean, consumers really want a simple process, but what we're seeing is that, shoppers who are completing more than half of their purchase process online are the most satisfied with their experience. And primarily those digital buyers are more likely to feel like a dealership gave them a good deal, and they're more satisfied with the amount of time they spent not only during the process, but in the dealership, which is a huge win because that's one of the pain points for consumers.
What does the digital online dealership landscape look like? Do all dealers have an online presence, and are they selling this way?
Well, yes, most dealerships have an online presence, but most dealers are not primarily selling fully online or using e-commerce in a big way right now. So, I mean, if you think about your dealerships and, people that we've been working with, they have a website that consumers are using for browsing information. They're looking at vehicles or even setting appointments. Dealerships are also using their social media platforms to connect with consumers in a different way. I mean, I don't know about you, Jim, but I'm constantly scrolling my Facebook and Instagram feed. So it's a great way for dealers to really start to take steps in that direction towards embracing this bigger consumer experience and embracing digital in a big way. I think, one of the things that we've seen in our research, though, is that there is still a gap, right, of what consumers are expecting today and what dealerships are able to deliver. But the flip side of that is that, dealerships who are willing to invest in digital retailing solutions, embracing, social media in a different way, they'll start to set their selves up, a step away from the competition because they'll really meet consumers where they are today.
What can dealers do to close the gap?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because, we talked about it, a little bit ago, but I think one of the most important things to underscore here is that no one in the industry is expecting dealerships to go 0 to 100% overnight and fully embrace, this digital world. But it's a gradual buildup that is most realistic for dealers and even consumers, right? They just want steps for it to be better, to save time at the end of the day. According to our car buyer journey, 87% of dealers have told us that when they embrace at least one part of digital retailing, one solution or one product, they're seeing improvements in their dealership. And the same is true on the consumer side too. 81% of them have said as they've been able to complete more online activities, their experience completely changes from an online buying and shopping perspective. So, I've tried to think about that from myself, right? I'm shopping online, I'm looking at clothes, I'm looking at things from Home Depot or Amazon, right? I mean, my whole experience is a one click, or it's being suggested to me of things I might like to be interested in.
That's right.
And so there's three, really big categories that I think from an industry perspective and a dealership perspective that we should all be taking away. And the first is around personalization, right? I mean, I'm in marketing and I can tell you marketing is all about personalization today. It's about, the expectation for consumers that I want someone to know that I'm Greta Crowley and I like this type of vehicle and my buying behavior has told me this, right? But that's only available if you're using your data in a really big way. The second one is all around accuracy, right? And thinking through consistent pricing through the entire deal making process.
So important.
I can't tell you, so important, right? And we have seen from consumers who've said, I've start my, deal on at this step and the pricing then changes at a different step. And that just continues to break trust over time. And so, making sure that you're marketing vehicles that are actually available and on your lot today, right? It's common sense. but also thinking through what incentives are active and promoting those so that consumers can start to put all of that information together and go through the deal making process.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, Jim, the last one's all around clarity and setting expectations. How much, do you think about, if I know that it's going to take 5 steps to complete this process and it's going to take 20 minutes, that starts to, give me an understanding of what that process looks like, not only from a consumer perspective, but from a dealership perspective too. That builds trust and loyalty. And that's what dealerships really want for those lifetime customers. And so I really think, focusing on consistent and automated workflows, that's how you start to really get that clarity and be able to set expectations in a different way.
Sure, sure. You've mentioned data throughout this interview, not just the data from Cox's car buyer journey study, but data that dealerships need to have for their business from a dealership perspective. How important is data in their marketing strategy?
Yeah, well, data is top of mind. If consumer experience is number one, I would tell you there's like a 1A and 1B with data right behind it.
Yeah.
And that's been a hot topic in our industry for as long as I've been around. But I think it's shifted over the years about how people are talking about data. First is about how much data do you have? How much more can you go out and get? Now we really need to shift it to, okay, you have the data, but what are you doing with the data? And is it working hard for you? And I think that's really hard for dealerships to figure out, right? Even from a marketing perspective, right? That's something that we're constantly thinking about. And there's 3 questions I would ask myself. And the first one is around marketing, right? And starting to think through, are my marketing campaigns effective? If you can't answer that, or the answer is no, you really need to think about, not do you have the right data, and is it really going after those niche audiences that you really can, own and really change from a convergent perspective to drive gross profit at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The second one, we've talked about personalization all throughout this interview, right? But I mean, really thinking through your website strategy. Can you have a personalization factor to that? Can you know that when that consumer hits your homepage or your digital front door, you want to be able to greet them and show them the vehicle that they'll be most interested in based on their buying signals or what maybe they're already a customer of yours and what they bought previously. The third one's all around thinking through your sales software and is it giving you actionable insights? I mean, today technology is so much more sophisticated than where it was, and it can really serve up what vehicle a shopper wants, how much they're willing to pay for it. But that level of data is so powerful when put to use and provided in a way that you really need to make sure that each item that you're buying from a software perspective can do that for you.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, you mentioned it right when we were starting to think about this, but Cox Automotive, that is where we are doubling down on from a data perspective. That's the foundation of Cox Automotive and how we really think that we can, help our clients set up for success of connecting all of that rich consumer data and pumping it into dealerships. That's how we'll all start to win when we start to meet consumer expectations.
Sure. Greta Crowley, Vice President of Retail Marketing at Cox Automotive. You've certainly given our audience a lot to think about. I know dealers appreciate the valuable information and perspective you've shared with us today. So thanks so much, and I'd love to do a follow-up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CPTnews.com.